Hello friends, Tanya here for Trinity Stamps, and today is day 7 of the April release. We are going to be playing with these fun, zesty stamps. What was this stamp set called? Zesty Wishes, that's right. I also happen to have just gotten the stamp wheel, and this is the first time I had used it at all, but it is like the Gina K wreath builder, only it isn't a stencil that you're using. I am just digging all of these citrus fruits that I can create. I've taken 2 greens, 2 yellows, and 2 oranges, and I'm creating wreaths of citrus. As you can see, I've lined up the yellow to nestle into the green limes. So we've got lemons, limes, and oranges. I'm going to add the 3rd color here, and I am taking a lighter color, stamping that whole, and then kind of doing the rock and roll technique where you're partially inking the stamp and stamping that right over the top. The beauty of this is that you are getting 3 fruits from 1 stamp. I adore this. There are a couple of little leaves here. They're slightly different in size. And I'm stamping those throughout a wreath of citrus here to add some extra greenery and a little more fullness to this image. This is a 5x7 card front. And now I'm going to add our sentiments for this card. I'm stamping some shark tooth white ink on a piece of black cardstock. And then I'm using some fine detail white embossing powder to heat emboss these so they'll be nice and smooth and shiny and raised. I love embossing for my main sentiments. Now I am die cutting a bunch of lemons and leaves and all of those sentiments. I thought I should add some extra shading to these citrus pieces before we move on to the next step. So I took the darker of each of those colors, the darker orange, the darker green, and the darker yellow, to create the shading on each of these limes, lemons, and oranges. Next, we're going to take the green and do some shading on these little leaves. Now you could stamp these and then die cut them because the dies do coordinate with the stamps, but I think it's fun to just die cut them out of some colored cardstock without stamping. I have almost all of these little leaves colored, and then one of the cool things about the stamp wheel is that it is like a photopolymer stamp in the base, so it holds your cardstock exactly where you put it. So that makes it really easy to stamp onto die cut images. And there is this adorable smiley face in the Zesty Wishes stamp set. Look at that. How adorable is that? Next, I took the modern embossed A7 stack and die cut the main panel from that, and we're going to adhere that to a 5x7 card base. I used some heavyweight white cardstock and cut it down to 10 by 7 inches and scored at 5 inches, and then creased that well with my bone folder before I attach the citrus panel to the front of the card. This is a really simple card, just that repetitive stamping and these heat embossed and die cut sentiments. This says, "You're simply the zest." I thought that was so sweet. And I did get my a little crooked, and the glue is super good, so it's stuck exactly there. I could not pull that up without harming my card front, so crooked is what we get. Next, I'm taking the citrus fruits that I die cut, ink blended, and stamped, and adhering those to the inside of the card. You can see that I had put a little bit of cardstock on the back. I had originally planned to put those on the front of the card with a little bit of dimension, but they just didn't fit with that busy stamping. So inside they go. We're even going to glue those cute little leaves to the inside of the card. I do really love to bring the design from the front of the card to the inside. I love using my pickup stick for moving small pieces around. It makes it very easy to get my precision placement. Next, we're going to take a bunch of gems. These are the Amber Glow, Brilliant Citrine, and Androcene Sparkle. These are some really pretty translucent gems or rhinestones that are in the Trinity store, and I'm scattering those all over the card front. I just thought that this card would benefit from all of the sparkle. Now, the embellishments that you get from Trinity stamps are packed full, so you can feel free to sprinkle everything with tons of sparkle. That is card number 1. Card number 2, we're going to use these simple skinny stripes. It is a 6x6 stamp, photopolymer stamp, which means you can see exactly where you are stamping. I put this in my regular MISTI, and I have a piece of 6x6 cardstock here. And I've stamped it with juicy ink, and I'm going to use some gold embossing powder. This is the, I can't remember, something gourd. It's an orangey gold color with a little bit of mica in it from Brutus Monroe. And I'm going to heat set this to create these beautiful lighter gold colored stripes. So pretty. Then I do wipe off the extra mica powder on here, but I love that color of gold. You want to make sure that the mica powder isn't going to affect your image. Now I'm going to take some ink cubes here. These happen to be Concord and Ninth. I believe that's grapefruit, buttercup, and aqua sky. And I'm going to ink this up across the front of the card. These are kind of primary colors, so this could be a little rainbowy, and that's kind of my intention. I've lined this up so that the stripes will fit right between the already embossed gold stripes, and this is going to create a multicolor front, or sorry, panel. Look at that, so pretty. I did stamp this a few times to get the crispness of color. Next, we're going to take the mini Slimline stitched layers and the mini Slimline Dainty Scallops dies. I picked the two that are going to layer together perfectly on a 3x6 mini Slimline card and die cut the Dainty Scallop from white and the stripe from the stitched one from stripe. Now I am taking some Copic markers and adding a little shading to these lemons and some little stippled dots. Then I come back over it with that yellow one again, just to soften it a little bit. Now I'm taking a green Copic marker and adding some shading to the leaves. And next, we're going to take that adorable little grin and add that to the lemons. I'm just putting it on an acrylic block and stamping it directly onto our lemon. You really don't need any special equipment to do this. Since it's an acrylic stamp, it's really easy to see where you're stamping. We'll adhere those cute little leaves to the back of the lemons, and then we'll be ready to add these to our cards. We have some pieces of vellum here that I've die cut with the stitched mini Slimline, and then I'm going to take some sentiments. This one is, I'll have it linked below. It's one of the sentiment stamp sets that doesn't get used as often as I would like in my craft room. It's got some great sentiments. This one says, "You make me smile," which I think is perfect with that sunny little lemon. I'm going to heat set that after I stamped it with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then we're also going to use the Simply Sentimental You stamp set and dies. I've stamped and die cut the word you and some sub-sentiments, and I embossed the word you with that same gold embossing powder as I used on the stripes. Now it's a time to assemble our cards. I layer the stripe onto the Dainty Scallop background layer, and then we'll adhere that directly onto a 3x6 mini Slimline card base. I used a heavyweight piece of white cardstock, cut that at 6x6, and then scored in half at 3 inches to create my card. I'm planning out my placement on this particular card, and I did cut out some extra layers of the word you to back this and give it a little dimension. I'm figuring out where I want to place this because vellum is a little tricky to adhere without the adhesive showing. So the plan is to only put adhesive behind the areas that have cardstock adhered to it. So I'm lining up the word you, and then we'll add this cute little sub-sentiment that says, make me smile. And this is all, the sentiment and sub-sentiment on this one are all from the Simply Sentimental You stamp and die set. I am adding some extra cardstock to the back of the vellum so it's sandwiched between the layers of our different elements. I did use the die for the word you and die cut that a couple of extra times with scrap cardstock to do my lining up for that. I could have done that with the lemon and this cute little banner too. I just didn't feel the need. It was pretty easy to cut the word you out when I had my scraps out. I just didn't think of it with the other ones. Now I'll center that up onto our card front and put a heavyweight block on there. Look at all these fun yellow elements that I could use on our card. I do have to pick just one, and I am picking these beautiful little lemon slices. This is called Lemonade Stand, and I found 2 or 3 different sizes and scattered those over the front of the card, and I'm going to adhere them with my fine tip glue. Don't forget, we have the Crafty Glue Friend, which is an amazing glue in the shop. Now I am going to do the second version. This is the one with the sub-sentiment that says, you make me smile. So this says, you make me smile. I thought it might be a little funny looking, but my son told me that it just sounds very emphatic. So we're going to go with it. I hope you think it still sounds reasonable too. We're going to add the extra cardstock behind the elements just like we did on the first one, and we'll adhere that fairly centered on our card front. Add some of those lemon slices. There are lemon slices, lime slices, and citrus slices in all 3 colors of citrus available in the Trinity Stamps shop. That is version number 2. Oh, and then I found some really paper thin little lemon slices, and I thought we'd add those to the insides of the cards also. I just found 3 or no, it looks like 5 of those. I didn't dig very far. These just happened to show up while I was pouring the embellishments back in the tray or in the holder. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please take a moment to do that now. Check that description box below for all of the products that I use today that are available in the shops right now. And until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.